This chapter is about craving, and even the gods find it impossible to deal with the consuming fire of craving. Whatever terrible sufferings and calamities there are in the world are all the fruits of craving, O Ram. So does this mean even earthquakes are the fruits of craving? Well, later on in this chapter we're also told that it is on account of craving that the sun shines on the earth, the wind blows and so on. We're told here it's the fruits of craving. Whatever suffering there is the fruits of craving. I spoke last time about the craving to be right that leads you to want to have your own beliefs to be true. And I pointed out the rather dubious position that people of strong religious belief somehow expect to be regarded as moral authorities. And yet some of these religious beliefs are very unpleasant. Doesn't matter what religion you're talking about here. If you believe in an all-powerful God, then you accept that nothing happens without the will of God. So if an earthquake destroys a town, then that happens by the will of God. So what's the obvious conclusion here? That somehow people deserved to die in that earthquake. I think most decent people wouldn't subscribe to. But if you believe in a God and that everything happens by the will of God, then whenever there's a disaster, part of you thinks, well, the people that had this disaster visited upon them must have somehow deserved it. Otherwise, why did God do it? Now, if you don't believe that kind of thing, that's great. But I think it's there with many people of religious disposition. For example, we get people who think that AIDS was somehow God's plague against homosexuals, even though many people who suffer from AIDS are not homosexual. But they seem to think that this is God's retribution. If people die in an earthquake, then perhaps this was God's retribution against them. If you're born in very unfortunate circumstances, then perhaps this is due to your past karma. What is the point in these beliefs? What is the effect of these beliefs? Except to diminish empathy towards our fellow human beings. So, one wonders about calamities being the fruits of craving. O Ram, remaining unseen and subtle, this craving is yet able to consume the very flesh, bone and blood of the body. In a moment it seems to subside. The next moment it is in an expanded state. Afflicted by it, man becomes pitiable, weak, lusterless, mean, deluded, miserable and fallen. And this is true. Anybody that's caught up in the grips of craving becomes a lesser human being. This was quite graphically illustrated in the Lord of the Rings film, with the Gollum creature, Smeagol. He had this craving for this ring. He was addicted. Although he lived longer, he lived in a completely wretched state. And eventually he got the object of his desire, but it was as he was tumbling into a lava pit. He wasn't even aware that he was tumbling to his own death. Such was his glee at getting the object of his craving. So it diminishes us. Craving diminishes our sense of being. It diminishes our human potential. When this craving has ceased, one's life force is pure, and all divine qualities and virtues enter one's heart. The river of craving flows only in the heart of the unwise person. Even as an animal falls into a trap, a blind well, on account of its craving for food, the bait, a man following the trail of his craving falls into hell. Even the worst blindness of senility is mild in comparison to the blinding delusion which craving brings about in one's heart in the twinkling of an eye. Craving makes one cringe and become small. Small here is in quote marks. Even Lord Vishnu became a dwarf when he decided to beg. So craving diminishes us as human beings. It diminishes our potential. When we're caught up in craving, we've taken the lesser option. We've got stuck. We've lost our sense of bigness. We've been swallowed up by craving. Hence, this craving, which is the source of all sorrows and which destroys the lives of all beings, should be renounced from a great distance. Once you're caught up in craving, there's not much you can do about it. We were told at the beginning that even for the gods, it's impossible for anyone to deal with the consuming fire of craving. Once you're caught up in it, you're burnt. So it should be renounced from a great distance. We shouldn't even go there. You can't renounce it when you're caught up in it. You're just going to have to ride through it somehow. It's best just not to go there. Give it up. Don't touch it in the first place. Get this distance between you and the craving. Get focused on something which gives you a better sense of yourself. Something enjoyable. Something wholesome. Yet it is on account of craving that the sun shines on earth, the wind blows, the mountains stand, and the earth upholds living beings. All the three worlds exist only on account of craving. All the beings in the three worlds are bound by the rope of craving. It is possible to break even the strongest rope in this world, but the rope of craving is hard to break. The idea is that the world is created by craving. Well, it's not. The world is as it is, but we create notions about the world, and we identify powerfully with these notions. So it isn't that craving creates the universe. Craving creates a vortex of notions that we get sucked into, and we desperately want to believe in these notions, whether they're religious notions, political notions, scientific notions, notions about personal identity, about who we are, notions about the world and our relationships with it. All these things are the result of craving. These are the things which we find very hard to let go of. Our whole idea about the world is based upon craving. So we need to be careful not to get caught up into naive yogic ideas about how craving creates the world.